Hey, John here. In this workout, we're going to use ascending and descending sixes, all played with alternate picking. So we're gonna start here on the 4th fret, and we're gonna go 4, 5, 7 on the D string and on the G string. So we're just gonna start with a downstroke, down, up, down, up, down, up. And then we're gonna do the same thing descending. The big difference here is that we're using septuplets instead of the more common sextuplets or 16th notes as our subdivision. So septuplets is 7 notes per beat, and that makes it a bad fit with a 6-note pattern, but that's also why it's so effective. So when you repeat an ascending 6-note pattern like this, but use septuplets instead, the beat will change place for every rep. This makes it way more challenging and also forces you to develop both your focus and your control, which is obviously a great thing when you're practicing. This way you're practicing will help your timing, and it will help your synchronization, and it will also help you focus when you practice. So I think it's one of my favorite ways of practicing, and you can apply it to different things, not only the shapes that I'm showing here, but I would definitely try starting with these shapes, because these shapes show up everywhere in all the great pickers, licks, and patterns in songs. So from Paul Gilbert to Steve Morse to John Petrucci and on and on. So by having these ascending and descending sixes down, you will find that picking up these new licks will be way quicker, because you don't need to go down on like a note by note basis. You can see bigger groups instead and see how they connect. So this is a big key to improving your technique quickly. The first step is to get used to the sound of the pattern. The sound changes for every rep because the beat will fall on a new note in the pattern, and whatever note that is on the downbeat will stick out to our ears. So basically it's going to sound like this, and I'm just going to use the ascending pattern first. So you're going to see that the downbeat, since we're using 7 notes on top of this 6-note pattern, it's going to move like this. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then finally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then we're back where we started, and then you're done with the ascending part of the exercise. And obviously we're going to move this around the fretboard, but we'll get to that later. And once you've done that, you want to do the same thing but in reverse. You start at the descending pattern instead, and the same thing is going to occur. Since we have 7 notes, the accent is going to move in the direction of the actual shape itself, like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then we're done. So if I remove every note except the downbeat here, it's going to be even clearer for you if you didn't get it right away, right? So it's going to be like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on. So basically the accent is going to move in the same melodic direction as the shape itself. So, and this is what you want to focus on when you practice this, because that's where the beat is going to fall, and you want to make sure that you're really tightly locked in with your foot, and also when you practice with the practice files that I've made for you. Basically 3 files, 40 BPMs, 50 BPMs, and 60 BPMs. And it's a hi-hat and a click, so you can really lock in with the septuplets. And all that stuff is available on my Patreon, as well as MIDI files and Guitar Pro and all that stuff. But basically that's what you want to focus on. But even before starting using the backing tracks, I'd suggest that you do it with just counting and using your foot. So we're going to start by counting each subdivision, and you can just use normal numbers if you make sure to cut off the second syllable of 7. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you want to line up whatever you're counting with the guitar. That's the whole point of actually counting this subdivision out loud. You can also use Mike Mangini's way, that's the drummer of Dream Theater, where you simply count, instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you would go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And that's a bit easier to count faster. So you go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So that's the way he does it, and I've done that a lot as well. And the final way that I would suggest is conical, which is basically an Indian rhythmic system. So it's kind of like solfege for rhythms. And in this system, I would suggest that you use the syllables for 4 plus 3, which would be ta, ka, di, mi, ta, ki, ta. Ta, ka, di, mi, ta, ki, ta. So it will sound like this. Taka, di, mi, ta, ki, ta, taka, di, mi, ta, ki, ta, taka, di, mi, ta, ki, ta, taka, di, mi, ta, ki, ta. So choose whatever you feel is the most natural for you. It's totally fine if it's just counting to 7, as I did in the beginning. So the most important thing though is that you count. And also the second thing that's very important is that your foot needs to come down on 1 the whole time. And as you start this without a metronome, you're just going to use your foot and counting. We're going to be counting, quite slow. So the downbeats then, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is quite slow. It's too slow to get that sort of any type of feeling of groove where the foot kind of goes on by itself. But it's very important that you make sure that you hit that downbeat very clearly, because your brain will interpret this as groups of 7 as it is then, even though the tempo might be very slow. So that's why it's so important to always keep your foot on the downbeat. And if it wasn't clear, you want to play the exercise as well as you count. So you would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. And if you get through that and you didn't screw it up, that's great. So you want to get really comfortable with just your counting and using your foot. And again, the foot is super important, so don't neglect that, even though it's easier to do it without the foot. But that's not the point. Once you get into this, you're going to find that the foot is really helpful. And you don't want to be one of those guys who keep tapping your foot with whatever riff you're playing instead of keeping it firmly on the downbeat. So your timing will be so much better if you can keep the foot on the downbeat. So this will help with that as well. So once you're comfortable with doing 7s and you can get through it without losing your place and you can really feel where you're at the whole time, it's time to start using the backing tracks that are provided for you. And you can find these on my Patreon. Just download it there. It's a zip file. You get 3 different backing tracks in 3 different tempos, and they're each 5 minutes long. And I say backing track, and it's not like a backing track with all the instruments and drums. It's just basically a click with the septuplet subdivision played on the hi-hat, so you can really dial it in so you get it as perfect as possible when you practice. So it basically sounds like this if we just started here. So you have this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's the thing, and you can practice with that. So that's the 40 BPM one, and you have a 4-beat counting for each one. And like I said, each track is 5 minutes long, so you can spend some time doing this. And I also provided MIDI files as well, so you can use that in your DAW. And if you have Guitar Pro, you can just use the Guitar Pro files, so that it's easier to change the tempo and stuff like that. But if you don't have any Guitar Pro, you don't have any DAW thing, and you don't like dealing with that stuff, you can go a long way with just these 3 backing tracks, because this type of practicing is not about getting it up to any ridiculous speed. It's more really dialing in your technique and your sense of timing. So when you go back to just playing these normally as 16-note triplets, it will feel way, way easier than it did before. And it's a really good way of practicing. So with that said, I'm just going to show you the routine now, or the workout, and how you should approach that. So the actual routine then is to take this concept and do it in every shape of the G major / E minor scale 3-note per string positions all across the fretboard. So you're going to cover the entire fretboard with this stuff. And if you're really comfortable with G major already, you can apply this to any 3-note per string scale that you're working on. It's the same idea, but I need to pick one key. So I picked a fairly easy one, but the technique is still the same, because even if you do this in E flat or D flat or whatever, it's still going to be the same shapes. It's just that the shape's going to be in slightly different places on the fretboard. But feel free to apply this to harmonic minor, melodic minor, whatever scales you're working on. So this is meant to be an approach to practice, so you don't need to be, doing exactly the same scales that we're doing here. But with that said, it's just the 3-note per string scales in E minor / G major. So the first shape would be this one. And I'm just going to show this one, and then I have provided the shapes as well on a scale diagram across the neck, so you can see every shape if you're not familiar with those. But even if you're not a member of my Patreon and you don't want to sign up, you can always just Google 3-note per string scales diagrams and you'll find them. So there's nothing special there, but it's already available on my Patreon, so you can check that out if you just want the quickest way. And basically you take each shape, scale shape, and then divide that into 5 string groups like this. So you have string group number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. So we have 5 different shapes here. And then you play the exercise like this. You just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. And then if that worked out and you didn't make any mistakes, you do the descending one. And so on. So you do that until you get around to the starting point again. And then if that worked out, you move on to the next string group. So you start on the A string instead and go. Same thing, you repeat it until you get back to the starting note, do the same thing descending, and you get the idea. You do that on each string group, so you go D and G, G and B, B and E. Then you're done with that one, you move on to the next scale shape, which is starting from G here. And do the same thing as before. If you find that you make a lot of mistakes, make sure to lower the tempo, because you want to get through this without screwing it up. And I would consider going out of time screwing it up as well. So it's not only doing something sloppy technique-wise, it's also not being in time when you do this. So I'm going to show you what it should sound like when you use the backing track. So I'm using the 40 BPM backing track here, and basically I'm just playing the initial shape that I showed you, this one and this one, so you can hear what it sounds like as you play along with the track. So here we go. That's ascending, and now we try descending as well. So that's what you're shooting for, and if you do that, then you can move on to the next string group and so on, and just go through all these different positions. And the cool thing about this is that you don't need to think about like, well, how many reps should I do in each position or whatever. It's fairly straightforward now and very intuitive, because once you get through the exercise without a mistake, you move on to the next thing. So you can get a very nice flowing feel throughout this thing. And it really improves your picking technique like crazy, and your timing, and yeah, it's a really great approach to practicing. So if you haven't tried it before, I highly suggest that you give it a try. If you have any questions, just post them below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. But also, if you do this routine and you follow each of the steps that I told you, do it for a few days and then report back to me and let me know how your technique feels after a few days in. It's not going to, take you from not being able to play this at all into Paul Gilbert level within a week, but it will definitely help your technique a lot, whatever level you're at. You just need to make sure to get the timing right, and counting is a big key to that, so don't skip that step. So the cool thing about this practice technique is that it combines this a bit odd rhythmic element that you might not have encountered before with the accents practice technique. And if you haven't checked out the video that I made about accents and why those are so awesome for synchronizing your hands, you should check out this video.